Hey there, Nick here. In this video, we're going to go over using a dedicated config file to configure Hadolint. So Hadolint is a tool to lint your Docker files. Quite a few years ago, I made a video focused on using Hadolint itself, so if you want a primer on that, feel free to check that out. I'll leave a card. This video is really going to be focused on just configuring it through a config file, which is quite nice. So I've got this example Dockerized app. I'll leave a link to this one in the description below here, but I've always had this little run script command here to run Hadolint, which in itself is being run as a Docker image here. But in the past, I was passing in all sorts of different command line flags to this tool instead of just using a config file. And while that worked, and it wasn't terribly inconvenient because it was all tucked away in this one little script here, I could just do like run lint Docker file, and it didn't really matter that a whole bunch of flags were over here. But then, as time went on, improvements were found where, sure, in this project here, you can run it from the command line like this, and you can even run it in CI in a consistent way. But then I started to tweak out my code editor a little bit more, like right now, using NeoVim here. And if I open up a Docker file, the Hadolint is actually running in the background here. So if I try to introduce an instruction that doesn't exist, something like that, then right away, Hadolint is going to be like, what, I'm linting this Docker file. This doesn't look like a valid instruction here. Go feel free to fix that. And, if I'm not running Hadolint with all those different custom flags there in some way through my code editor, then I would have to reconfigure all those flags for the code editor's version of Hadolint. But here it's a lot more simple. Here we can just pass in a config file because right now Hadolint itself is running in a Docker image. It just knows to look for this config file in this location here. So part of this project now is, there's a Hadolint config file. It's actually been here for some time. I don't know, maybe even close to a year. I actually forget the exact time frames there. But in this case here, instead of just passing in command line flags, we can just do all of that in the config file. And now everyone in a consistent way can run it, no matter if you're running on the command line in CI through your code editor. If other people want to check out the repo and pull it down and run Hadolint directly, they don't have to worry about passing in flags in some way here because this file is commit to version control. So here's actually a diff of this commit here that was committed up. Looks like it was actually March 2025. So whatever, 6 months ago is when I made this change here. But I've been using this in all my projects now. You can see previously, the old version of this. Let me zoom in a little bit more even. You can see, we were passing in that ignore rule here and the style over here for the output there. But if we go back to, we can actually see here the new version is there's a config file. Here we can basically say, there's the threshold there for failure style. That's a T flag. And then here's a list of different ignored rules that we'd like here, which were passed in just like this before. So this cleans up the command a little bit. I like it. And moving forward, this is how I'll be configuring Hadolint. So if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer all of them. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. It really does help a lot. Thanks a lot for watching, and I will see you in the next video.